Hello 1L, we're back again talking about place value and rules for rounding. I guess you probably don't want me to sing the whole lesson, so I think I'll kind of stop that now. I can successfully identify place value and apply the rules for rounding for decimal numbers. So you take a look here, this number's gotten quite a bit longer. The reason it's gotten longer is because I went after the decimal point now. Now we have all of these digits over here after the decimal place. I still put my little rounding roller coaster over here because we're still going to check to see if things roll to the bigger number and get pushed to the bigger number or fall backwards to the smaller number, which stays the same. Okay, so I want you to notice that we've given these more numbers, and I also want to point out that there's no ones column after the decimal point. There's only a ones here. There's no oneth. We have tenths, tens, and then tenths on the other side, and then it looks the same as the other one, but there's no oneths column. So we start at tenths, hundreds, thousandths, hundred thousandths, and 10 millionths. Oh, wait a minute. I missed the ones that were down here. This is thousandth and this is millionths. I thought we were having a little bit of a gap there. You don't go from hundred thousands to 10 millions. Anywho, let's carry on. Place names after the decimal point have a th on the end. Remember this when finding which place to underline. So we're going to take a look at these ones again. And here's our steps. Step 1 still says underline the number you are rounding to. So we got to be careful with what number we're rounding to. Now I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to do the first one, and then you're going to put it on pause and try to fill in the rest of the numbers, and then unpause me and check your answers, see if they match mine. So we're going to do the first one. This says we're going to round to the ones. So that means the nearest whole number. So this is the ones column. Oop, let's get a pen, not a highlighter. Okay, we're going to round to the ones. This is the ones column. So when we round to the ones, we're going to put this line down here, and we have to take a look at what comes after it. And that is a 4. Now 4 is not strong enough to push this 3 to a 4. So it's going to stay at 63. And if we're rounding to the nearest whole number, we don't have any decimal points. No decimal points at all. Okay. Now I'm going to take my eraser, erase that, and we're going to do this again to the tenths. Now remember, tenths is the first number after the decimal place. So we're going to think about this line here, and we're going to look after it. Is the next one after the line strong enough to push that 4 to a 5, or is it going to stay a 4 and roll backwards on a rounding roller coaster? Well, 7 is 5 or bigger, so it's going to push that 4 to be a 5. So we go 63.5. Now here's where it's different than the last one. I'm not going to fill in zeros for the rest of them. I'm just going to leave them. We have to fill in zeros as placeholders for anything in front of the decimal point, but after the decimal point, if we don't fill in anything, we automatically assume it's 0, so we don't have to put those zeros in there. So now let's erase that again. And we're going hundreds. Okay, remember this one was tenths. This one is hundreds. So we're going to put our line in here between the hundreds and the thousandths, and we take a look at this number. Is 2 big enough to push 7? Nope. 2 is not. Remember, it's got to be 5 or bigger in order to push this number. So it stays a 7. 63.47. Now let's take the eraser again. And we want it in the thousandths. So this was tenths, hundreds, thousandths. So there's where we're going to put our line. Is this one big enough to push the 2? Nope, not even a little bit. 1 is definitely not big enough to push a 2. So we want to say 63.472. And remember, we don't put any zeros in this time. Now I'm going to do a couple more here before I go in. I want to make sure you hear the thinking for a bit. So let's do at least a couple more here. And let's say ones. So I'm going to do ones. And so there's the ones. So I put my line down here and I look at the number after it. Is that big enough to push this 7 to an 8? Well, it's bigger than 5. It's 5 or bigger. So yes, it is. So this becomes 88. Now, let's see. I'm just going to pick and choose. I'm going to do this box right here. And if I do that box right there, that means I want to take this number to the tenths. So tenths is right here. So we're going to draw a line down here after the tenths, and we have to look after the line. Is that big enough to push the 9? Yep, it's big enough to push the 9. Now here's a little bit tricky. This 9 goes to a 10, and since I can't put a 10 in there, what that means is that it bumps this. We got a whole bunch of bump going on. All these roller coaster cars are just knocking into each other. 8 changes 9 to a 10, which changes this 9 to a 10, which changes this 4 to a 5. You got to keep going because you can't put 10s in. So right here, we have to change that to 1, 5, 0. And here's the only time we're going to keep putting zeros. It wanted it to the closest tenth, so I need to show at least a 10th decimal column. So this is the only time we're going to put the 0 after the decimal place, is if that 10th column is a 0. And here's this last one. I'm going to do thousandths for this one. Let's see what happens with this one. This is another funky one. So we're going to do the thousandths. The thousandths column, this goes tens, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So I'm going to put my thing here, and now we've got a bunch of 9s again. So this 9 is going to bump this 9 to a 10, which bumps this 9 to a 10, which bumps this 5 to a 6. So this is going to be 0.6 if we're in the thousandths. So 0.6. And then remember, we want it to the thousandths. We need these two things filled in as zeros. So to the nearest thousandths, it's 6 thousandths. So now I want you to put me on pause and then come back and fill these in, do the rest of them, and then come back and see if you got them right. And we're back. So check your work, put it on pause and check your work. If you didn't get it right, wave me over and I will see where you went wrong. But if you got them all right, it's time to move on and complete a worksheet.